I ended up going to University of Miami. It was everything I thought. Whenever there was a trauma, all the nurses came in bikinis. You know, with their syringes and stuff. I was like, word? Like, I want to be a patient. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me get into a car accident. Let me shoot myself. You know what I'm saying? Nurses coming down in thongs. What?
That did not happen to me.
Look, we all got different needs, wants, and goals in life. As doctors, locum tenens definitely needs to be a part of that conversation. But you might wonder, how do I find out if locums is good for me? Here's my answer. Go to an unbiased, informative source like locumstory.com. You'll learn all the ins and outs of locums, details on travel and housing, how to find different jobs, tax information, and more. Get a comprehensive view of locums and decide if it's right for you at locumstory.com. Link is in the show notes. Have you heard of the Healthy Conversations podcast? If you're looking for a podcast that moves the health conversation forward, then I highly recommend Healthy Conversations, the acclaimed podcast from CVS Health. Hosted by Dr. Daniel Kraft, the Harvard and Stanford trained physician scientist, Healthy Conversations provides both inspiration and cutting-edge information about the forefront of medical practice. You can find it wherever you're listening to Docs Outside the Box, and don't forget to subscribe. And to make it easier, the link is in the show notes. All right, guys, welcome to another episode. Not just any episode, but we are back. This is a new episode of Docs Outside the Box. I'm excited to be here. My name is Dr. Nii. I am joined by Dr. Dr. Renee.
Ooh,
You didn't catch that.
Name tag. I need a name tag.
Man, so much has happened since we've been gone. We haven't recorded in, 6 weeks?
Oh, has it been?
No. I've been doing
4
intros.
weeks.
I've been doing intros for the episodes, but we haven't recorded together a full episode in about 6 weeks. But a lot has happened during this time while we were gone. But since I've been back, for me, I've been highly anticipating Shannon Sharpe being on First Take. And anybody who knows, I love Shannon Sharpe. I love him on Undisputed. I'm not a big fan of Skip Bayless at all. Actually, I despise Skip Bayless. I can't stand him.
Really?
Yeah. So there's a lot of times where I will watch the show, I'll listen to Shannon, and then I'll fast forward through Skip's part.
Don't need to hear you.
Nope.
Don't need to hear you, Skip.
Nope. I don't want to hear him. Just wait till Shannon goes and then go from there. But now that he's on First Take, his first episode was great, but he just kept saying, so Skip.
He calls Stephen A. Smith Skip.
You know what, Skip? Skip. It's okay. It's been 7 years.
So what Stephen A. do? What do you do today?
Today he put the sticker on his thing saying that, what do you call it?
My name is Stephen A.
That was really good. I think they're going to have really good chemistry. Mm-hmm. The only thing that I worry about is Stephen A. could be a little
overbearing.
They're both overbearing. Him and Skip are overbearing, but it's
Shannon's overbearing.
I feel a lot of times
charismatic overbearing.
Who's this?
Shannon.
No, I'm talking about Skip. Skip and Stephen A. can both be overbearing. But what I'm saying is that a lot of times, in my opinion, Stephen A. will say things that he'll be overbearing in a way that takes away from the story. Gotcha. Or that makes it less interesting. Okay. I don't know why. He'll just start saying things, is that what you're trying to say? It's just just let the other person cook and then go from there.
Just get to the point.
But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself the right way? My bad.
Well, my name is Dr. Renee, and I'm here to stay. Came back from Ghana.
That's a G-H-A-N-A. That's not a G-H-N-A with an A-goo or something like that. But you've been in Ghana so long, you kind of taken on the characteristics of the alphabet.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
A-E-I-O-O-U.
Oh, excuse me.
You gotta get
a lot of vowels.
There's a lot of different. There's a lot of it is the same, but there's also some small minor differences, like the and Wait, Anyway, y'all, we excited to be back. We're excited to be here in front of y'all, talking to y'all. If you're listening, shout out to y'all. Everybody who's listening on the podcast, we appreciate y'all putting up with us for, being gone and having to repeat episodes for 6 weeks or so. But, we just needed some time off.
Yeah.
And the trip to Ghana was amazing.
Oh my God.
It was great. I got an opportunity.
Didn't come back.
Had an opportunity to see family, had an opportunity to do things that I enjoy, which is, taking care of hernias and then more hernias and then more hernias and then more hernias. And then also doing some of the logistics with making sure that everybody on the mission is playing nice. And then afterwards, we fucked around and found a place that we wanted to buy. So we are buying some land in Ghana, y'all. We are buying
a property.
Well, it's not land, but we're buying a property, an apartment in Accra. And the reason we're doing that is for two reasons. One is your man wants to take a sabbatical eventually where pretty much just practicing in Ghana and we need a place to stay. And then also at the same time, we want to make it a rental property also.
Yeah.
So in the next couple of episodes, maybe we'll drip it out how we're doing with definitely with purchasing it.
Yeah. Those were some big discussions, I think.
Yeah, how we're going to purchase this. Just so y'all know, mortgage rates in Ghana are not like mortgage rates here in the United States. We're talking about interest rates in Ghana right now, anywhere between 22 to 28%. So that ain't an option.
Child.
That's not an option. So we got to be a little bit more creative with how we're going to fund this.
Yeah.
And then also at the same time, this is the first time that we are getting into possibly Airbnb-ing this when we're not there. But we're going to save that for another episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the point of this episode, guys, is really just to kind of reacquaint ourselves to you all. It's been so long. Like, we just make episodes and we've gotten so many new people who are listening to the show. Shout out to everyone who's new and listening to the show.
And watching on YouTube. But I think a lot of times what we don't do, or at least what I haven't done, is just ingratiate ourselves to the new listener, or even just to people who've been listening for a while who just kind of forget who we are and what we're doing. So I want to take an opportunity to introduce myself. You want to go first, or do you want me to jump into it? You can jump into it.
Yeah. But listen, actually, before we do this, let's take a break, right? Because it's going to take a minute to introduce ourselves.
Yes.
Let's take a break. Let's pay the bills. And when we get back from this short break, we will be back. What's changed in healthcare? The opportunities, the lifestyle, and you. Now's the perfect time to explore locum tenens and see how it might fit into your career story. Trust me, this is not a one-size-fits-all solution for everyone, and the variety of opportunities might surprise you. I recommend starting your research at locumstory.com, an unbiased, educational resource about locum tenens. You're going to find stories of locum physicians from all walks of life, so you get a bigger picture of the diverse options. The Locum Story website also has a tool that lets you explore locum's pay and demand for your specialty, and even compare to different locum tenens agencies. There's even a simple quiz to see if locums is a right fit for you. Locums could be an essential part of your career that adapts to your needs. Do your own research at locumstory.com. It's easy. Link is in the show notes. Okay, we are back, y'all. So listen, this is an opportunity to reintroduce ourselves. I'm going to go first. I'll take the
host privilege.
I'll take the privilege of being the host. But listen, everyone, my name is Dr. Nii Darko. I'm now 10 years out practicing. You're
a little bit more than 10 years out.
11 years.
There you go.
Yeah, 11 years practicing. Don't age me now. Don't let us get started on how old you are. You want to go there?
What?
Or how many years you been practicing?
What?
Huh?
I'm only like one more year out than you.
3 years?
Get out of here. Whatever.
But listen, I didn't yield my time. So
whatever.
Let me say who I am.
You reclaiming your time?
So guys, I am Gen X. I'm one of the last Gen Xers. It is. I like to say I'm like one of the last of the Mohicans. So the last couple of years before people became millennials and so forth. Born in Manhattan, raised in Queens. That's right. Raised in Queens and New Jersey, Irvington, to be more specific. Why are you looking at me like that?
Yeah, because, tell the whole truth. The whole truth.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Yes.
What about the truth? I was born.
When did you move to Irvington?
I moved to Irvington when I was 10 and a half.
Okay, there you go.
to your teenage years.
Yeah, my teenage, and I stayed in Irvington for 7 years, and then I went off to college. So I spent more years in New York than I did in New Jersey.
Hold on a second. But some of those years you were a baby, so you don't even know where you are. Like, come on, stop playing. Anyway, keep going.
Hateration from your own family.
Whatever.
You be hating your own family.
Whatever.
But anyway, sometime, like, I don't know, I think probably when I was like 9 or 10, I was watching TV and I knew that, hey, I want to be a doctor. Because there was all these doctor shows on and so forth, but nobody in my family was in medicine at the time. Nobody. Right. I think at the time maybe my mother was studying to be a nurse's aide, and that was it. And then when I moved to New Jersey, as you start going into the 6th grade, you get into high school, then you start realizing, hey, this is what I really want to do, but I still don't have anybody really, like, I think there's a point where I have to look back and say, was my wish to be a doctor rooted in reality or not? Because I don't think... You
didn't have any friends that wanted to be doctors?
No. There was no friends who wanted to be doctors. Yeah. All my friends wanted to go into business, engineer. They wanted to be, sports. I don't have that many people who, I don't know, I can't even recall who in high school wanted to go into medicine. And then, I went to college at Lehigh University, stayed there for 4 years, applied to medical school twice. So in my junior year, I applied to medical school with the dumbest strategy out there, which was I wasn't very realistic with my MCAT scores and where my MCAT scores could get me into medical school. So I was applying to like the Harvards, the Georgetowns, the whatever other schools that are really kind of just...
Yeah, is your MCAT good?
Is your MCAT good? And that's it. And I did not
We like
get
robots.
It.
No, let me stop.
Hey, listen, this is what the podcast is for, right? We want robots, right?
Yeah, well, back then especially, it was a different world. It was a different application world back then.
Oh, move your microphone back just a little bit. Not there. Like from the seat.
Yeah.
Back
it was a different, I think, application world back then.
Yeah, I mean, well, listen. I mean, to this day, though, still the MCAT weighs really heavy. Am I wrong?
No, it does.
Right. So I ended up trying to figure out what I was going to do for 2 years. I took 2 years off. I took some grad assistant work, or I took a grad assistant job where I was actually coaching track and field and cross country at Lehigh. So I stayed there for an additional 2 years. And then in exchange for doing that, I got like my graduate work paid for, so to speak.
Right.
So I was almost attempting to get like a master's or whatever it may be and take like higher level courses and all that stuff. But in essence, basically, it was a post-bac program that I created on my own.
Right.
And I just was doing things here and there to get my application stronger. But basically, I was just reapplying to medical school during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you finish the master's?
Hell no, I ain't finished that master's. I reapplied. I got a different strategy. I reapplied. I widened my net. I started looking at more schools in the Midwest, the South. I don't think I looked at any schools out West, but Midwest, just looked all over the place.
Yeah.
And then eventually started doing interviews, and then I started getting into places, and then the one place that I really wanted to go to, Kansas City University, they accepted me, and this is the osteopathic medical school. They accepted me.
Why'd you really want to go to that school?
When I went there for an interview, it was unlike any other place, and the number one thing for me was the curriculum. The curriculum was this systems-based thing, which everybody's heard of right now. Everybody's doing right now. But back then, like, it was very few schools that did this systems-based type of thing where, if you're going to study, like in college, you just study biochemistry separately. You study organic chemistry separately. You study, whatever I don't remember college because it was just, I hated college. I didn't like it. I didn't do well. I didn't thrive like I thought I should in college.
Yeah.
But in medical school, it's you study body parts and you study the everything that goes along
about them. Yeah.
Right. So if you're going to study the brain and the spinal cord, then you're understanding the anatomy of it. You're understanding the physiology,
the pathology,
all the things that go wrong with the neurology system, how it looks like on an H&E slide. So when you're doing histology, and all of that stuff started to make sense.
Right.
I understood biochemistry because then it started relating it to how diabetes works.
Right.
Or if you're running, you're sprinting and you start to get that monkey on your legs, right? Like that's biochemistry.
Right.
Nobody ever explained it to me like that in college.
Yeah.
But once I got into med school and understood that, that's when I took off.
Yeah.
So when I saw that at KCU, I was like, you know what? I want to try this because every time I've done this in the past, it doesn't work. So that's part of the reason why I was excited to go there. So, gassed up the Jetta. My dad came with me. We put a whole bunch of bags on the top of the car, strapped it up. I mean, I don't think I even put that, it's like...
A rack? You didn't have a rack?
No, I had a rack. I had to buy a rack from the Sports Authority. Right?
Yeah.
I bought a rack from the Sports Authority, and I don't even know if I even, set it up right. It was shaking and shit, and, I'm driving.
So you might have lost a bag or two.
To this day, probably. Someone in Indiana is rocking my underwear. What is this,
What is this? Why is this kente cloth underwear?
Kente cloth tidy whities. It says Kunta Kinte on it. Who dropped this stuff off, right in front of our house? But yeah, so I drove all the way across the country, and it was halfway across the country.
Right.
But that was a big jump for me.
Yeah.
Right? Because everything for me was New York or New Jersey or Pennsylvania. So that was a big jump for me. Did 4 years there, did the MBA program, which you did in 4 years also. Then when it was time to look for residency, I decided I wanted to do surgery. Really liked surgery and applied to a whole bunch of surgery programs. Didn't interview at that many and ended up at Morehouse School of Medicine.
Whoop, whoop.
And their general surgery program, and completely changed the trajectory of how I looked at taking care of people, being at a HBCU, which is one of the best experiences ever, particularly with medicine. Being at a HBCU, particularly at Morehouse, particularly at Grady, was an amazing thing. So actually, before we finish the story, we got to take a break. So let's just take a break, and we will be right back.
If you're looking for a podcast that moves the health conversation outside of the box, then I highly recommend Healthy Conversations, the acclaimed podcast from CVS Health. Hosted by Dr. Daniel Kraft, the Harvard and Stanford-trained physician scientist, Healthy Conversations provides cutting-edge information about the forefront of medical practice. On each episode, Dr. Kraft sits down for one-on-one interviews with doctors and tech innovators who are transforming healthcare to address some of the most pressing issues. If you're looking for entrepreneurial inspiration, then I recommend their episode on how the NHS evolved to support physician entrepreneurs. This is where Dr. Kraft interviews Dr. Tony Young of England's National Health Service on medical innovation. Or listen to their recent conversation on neurodiversity with legendary animal behaviorist and autism advocate Temple Grandin. So look, don't miss out. Listen to Healthy Conversations from CVS Health. It's available for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Link is in the show notes.
All right, we are back. I left off at practicing or being a resident at Morehouse and at Grady. That was great.
What was so great about it?
I think there's an experience of being at a hospital that mainly serves people who don't have money, people who don't have insurance, and then also understanding health inequities and all of this stuff about people who don't have insurance do A, or people who aren't able to afford, X, Y, and Z medical care. This is how they show up. And you're actually seeing that. And then you can actually affect that care. That was something that was really amazing to me, right? I saw so many Crohn's patients who were African American. And when you read about it in the textbooks, when you see the statistics, even right now, when I'm practicing wherever I go, I don't normally see African Americans in that.
Right.
So seeing that was oh, wow.
Right.
This is
the
amazing.
textbook come to life.
Well, more than the textbooks, right? Because
or not the textbooks, excuse me, the I shouldn't say the textbooks, but the studies come to life, right? The health inequities, health disparities studies come to life.
So that was great. So once I finished that, then I said I wanted to do trauma. And then once I decided I wanted to do trauma, the next case is where exactly do I want to be?
Why trauma?
I like trauma because it's very unknown. but it's also very algorithm based, which if you know me very well, I'm very much like, if A happens, then do B, then C, then, it's very algorithmic. It's
very
organized. I like that. But also at the same time, you never know what's going to happen, right? One minute you're operating on the abdomen, the next minute you're cracking a chest, the next minute you're taking care of someone's fasciotomy, or you need to give someone a fasciotomy leg.
Still.
Right? I love the versatility of that. And then I like the ICU care. I like all of that stuff. So I ended up going to University of Miami, and I spent a year down there, and it was everything I thought. Like, whenever there was a trauma, all the nurses came in bikinis.
I was just about to ask.
The syringes and stuff. I was like, word? Like, I want to be a patient. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me get into a car accident. Let me shoot myself. You know what I'm saying? Nurses coming down in thongs. What?
That did not happen to me.
You could ask anybody. At University of Miami, the nurses, when the trauma is active, the nurses come down in, what do you call it?
In bikinis.
In bikinis.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Anybody from university who's watching knows damn well that shit don't. That doesn't happen.
I was gonna say, sounds like you had a really good time in Miami, Nii.
Sounds like I didn't go to work actually. So that was great. I was there for a year, and really got to understand what I liked and what I didn't like. What I liked the operating. I also liked the ICU care, but there was a lot of admin stuff that I didn't like. But long story short, there was a time when I finished was, what kind of job am I going to get? Am I going to go work in academics? So go work in another, like University of Miami, or work in another Morehouse School of Medicine, or wherever it may be, work with residents, and then kind of work my way to becoming a professor and all the other garbage and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do all that stuff.
Right.
And I just wanted to work. I wanted to go and make money. My father was diagnosed with prostate cancer at that time, so I really needed to just work and be able to kind of pay for those things. So, I started doing locums. So for folks who are listening, locums is you don't work for a hospital, you don't work at an academic center, you are just basically an independent contractor. If the hospital needs someone to work and cover, they will go through a company, that company will go to you, and then you provide services, you operate, you do all these different things, and then the way how you get paid is you give a timesheet to the company bills the hospital pays the company pays you.
So what made you decide that you were just going to do locums? Because most people come out and they get a job. They sign on a dotted line for 3 to 5 years. But
I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to give away my time. I don't know why. There was something at that point, maybe because I have commitment issues, but I didn't want to do something for 3 to 5 years at one place. I just wasn't ready for that. So you were doing locums at the time, and you explained to me, hey, why don't you consider locums? All of your interviews at all of these different places, they're okay, but you're not ready to commit. Just do locums for a couple of years and then see how it goes.
Yeah, but didn't you start out looking for permanent jobs at first?
Yeah, all the places that I was interviewing were all for permanent positions.
Yeah. So what was that switch?
Oh, I mean, one of the interviews I had, I'm not even going to mention his name, but one of the interviews that I had, this was for a permanent job in Jersey, in Atlantic City. I was just getting my contract evaluated by a lawyer. My lawyer was taking a while to get it back to, to the hospital. And then the guy who ran the program just started yelling at me saying that you need to make a decision right now, enough of all this stuff, and go from here. And I was like, that's weird. I'm like, that's weird. Like, you yelling at me already. That's
you yelling
weird.
at me already.
And I don't even work for you. So I just said, look, I kind of was like, look, I'll talk to you later. And then I told you about it, and you're like, what did you say?
I said, well, if you're not working for him and he's already treating you like that, imagine when you do work for him, how he's going to treat you. Like, this is going to be a contentious thing. Because if I know Nii Darko, I know people do not get away with yelling at Nii Darko.
Yeah.
That would have been an explosive situation.
Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, the last thing that you need to do to me right now is yell at me. I don't know why. When people yell at me, I just snap back. It's just an innate defense mechanism.
Explosive situation. You wouldn't have lasted a year there with that guy.
Yeah, but I think that was indicative of how people, or in general, how people are. Like, when you work at a certain place, right? Like, particularly in trauma, there's people who are old heads, and then there's the new guard. But I think even with anybody who's in charge, ultimately what they really want is someone who they can force to do A, B,
Right.
C, or D. And I just was like, yo, I didn't go through all of this stuff. I didn't go through all the sacrifices, the missing of weddings, the missing of birthday parties, the studying all night, the, having someone yell at you while you're on rounds, the memorizing the anatomy and the surgery, going through all the different board examinations, retaking, the MCATs twice, all of these different things. I didn't go through all of this stuff for someone to tell me what to do at that point. That was a big thing for me. So when he yelled at me like that, reflexively, I was like, oh, hell no, I can't. If I'm going to go get a job and you telling me that everybody's going to tell me what to do, this is just not going to work.
Right.
And some people may say, well, you're just not a team player. It's like, well, if being a team player means that someone is going to try to degrade me, then I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, then you're not a team player. I'm not playing on that team.
And that was huge for me. And that's when I was like, you know what? I'm going to do locums.
Yeah.
And it was just really, I don't know why. It was just really big for me to be like, I don't have a boss. I don't want a boss.
Yeah.
Right? A little bit of Dame Dash. Like, I don't want a boss.
Right.
Like, I cannot. After all of this stuff, like, the biggest thing for me is, yes, I want to be excellent with what I do with, in the belly and, removing stuff and fixing stuff and all those things. I want to be a great surgeon. But my number one thing that I really want to make sure that I don't have to deal with is someone telling me that they're my boss.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
It sounds like you...
Even when you try to do it.
Yeah. Everybody knows I am your boss. No, but it sounds like you really want to protect your autonomy and your time and your ability to just kind of do what it is that you want to do with that time.
That, and I've seen doctors force other doctors, and this is in the surgery world, to do procedures that they don't feel comfortable doing. And I just, in my mind, I never want to do that.
Right.
And I never want to be in a position to do that. And for me, in order to say no, sometimes saying no is going to cost you.
Right.
And that may cost you maybe not being in that person's favor anymore. That may cost you even your job. And I guess at that point, and even till this day, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care about that.
Right.
If I got to walk away from something just so I can stand on principle, I'm always going to stand on principle.
Let me ask you this though: what has allowed you to actually be able to get to that point? Because there are a lot of physicians, even out as long as you are, or even more, who literally don't feel like they can say no.
Well, I'll be very honest with you. I've always been like that. But I think definitely when you feel like you have something to lose, right? And something to lose can be your career. Something to lose can be something that you're working at your job. Maybe there's a research project that you're working on. When you feel like professionally there's something to lose, the likelihood of you walking away or the likelihood of you saying no, you have to weigh those options, right? And you start to realize that, I thought I put a line in the sand, but, now that the water's kind of running over that line in the sand, it's kind of starting to disappear. I could be a little bit more flexible with that, right? But I also think that when you start throwing in like some financial issues, right? Like, well, I got debt, I got a ton of student loan debt, or I haven't saved up for retirement yet, or, if I leave this job, then I have this huge medical malpractice tail that I got to pay for because
I literally can't afford to not work at this job.
Correct. When that occurs, then it's, that is when you start to do the mathematics in your head emotionally, and you're like, yeah, I know he just yelled at me, or I know that she just yelled at me, or I know that like they promised that I was going to have this vacation, or I know that I was ready for this promotion and I'm supposed to be, medical director of X, Y, and Z. And I know I got passed over, or I had to miss this because of this. But is really saying something really worth losing this? And what I'm saying is before you even get to that point, I don't want anybody telling me what to do. Right. So I will say, even if I have to lose something, like there's something about for me that is like, if I feel like someone got something over on me, it festers with me. I just know myself. It festers. So if I feel like someone yelled at me and I didn't yell at them back, or if I didn't get them back, it's going to bother me. And that relationship is always going to have a major issue from now going on. So for me, it's always like, look, I need to handle it, and I'm going to handle it in the most, what's the word I'm going to say? I'll handle it in a professional way, but you're going to know that I'm very unhappy with what you said, and I'm going to make it extremely uncomfortable for you in public so that you won't ever do that again. Now, back to what you were saying with like the ability to not be influenced by people who quote unquote may be your supervisors, right? I think like the big thing for us was, we rolled into our first jobs with combined debt of almost $700,000, right? So when we got married, we decided to combine our finances. I brought in $330,000 of debt. You brought in $330,000 of debt. So now, we're in all of this together.
Yeah.
And, it just, I think at the time, I still in my mind was like, well, what are we willing to put up with? Because you remember the first job we had, they changed the way in which our retirement plan was. It was very favorable to us as clinicians. And then when it got taken over by a bigger hospital company, they changed our retirement plan. A lot of money that we were getting pre-tax got changed to after-tax. Nurses striked. There was some things that were just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to
pillars of the community either being let go from the hospital or quitting. That was like all within like a year and a half of the hospital system, the new hospital system taking over. So we knew going in that hospital system was eventually going to take over.
Yeah, and then you throw on top of that, we were far away from family.
Yeah.
For us, the big thing was, look, I want to be close to family. I know some people don't care. It's more of like the professional pursuit that drives them. And the family would be proud of me and so forth. I get all that. But for me specifically, I always wanted to be closer to my family, to be available for anything, whatever it may be. I've always wanted to be a hop, skip, and a jump away from my family. So for me to do all of these things, to put up with, all of these changes, it was a major issue for me.
Yeah.
So I think after locums, I did locums at various hospitals. Right. So basically I would work in PA for 2 weeks. Then another 2 weeks I'd work in Idaho. Then another 2 weeks I'd work in Minnesota. Then another 2 weeks I'd work. I can't remember. I was all over the place.
Yeah, you were all over.
And then eventually I found out that there was this one spot in PA that I really liked. I always enjoyed walking back to. They had really great coverage. Everybody worked well together. And then they also had a job for you. Right. Because around this time we got married and I was like, you know what? You like it there. They have this really interesting hybrid of OB and family medicine. Let's go here.
Yeah.
And after all of those things that we were describing, the nurses, the changing of the retirement plans, I think a year and a half into things, we were like, yeah, this is...
But I think we also kind of made that plan ahead of time because we knew that another bigger hospital system, which we were somewhat familiar with, was going to take over. There was a very specific conversation that we had right before we took that job in PA. But let's save that for the next episode, and we can jump into that then.
All right, y'all. We're going to catch you guys on the next episode.
Peace.
When we get back from this short break, we will be back.
Wait, when we get back from this short break, we will be back?
Is that what I said?
Yes. Oh!